Well, that happened. Good evening and welcome to the second edition of the Alabama Crimson Tide call-in show right here on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, where yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and my partner in crime, Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports, will take your calls right here on the channel where we discuss the latest news and notes on the Alabama Crimson Tide, and we welcome everybody. Alabama fans, Auburn, Tennessee, non-Alabama fans, non-SEC fans. We welcome all of you. Come one, come all. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
I'm doing great, Jackson. Sorry about the little delay, but definitely excited to have the second edition of the call-in show, and it's coming off of an interesting week for Alabama. Not crisis mode because they didn't lose again. Like if they had lost 2 games in a row, that would have set Bama fans over the edge. But they found a way to win against South Carolina. But to me, the squeaking out that wings presents more questions than answers for Alabama. They still don't look like an elite team after that Georgia first half. Ever since that Georgia first half where they look like the best team in the nation, haven't been doing as well since. So definitely Alabama fans, including me and Jackson, are a little bit concerned with Alabama football. They're still on track to make the playoff, but they got a big game coming up this week. And we got Sports Talk with Austin saying Jeffrey's outfit is clashing wearing Tennessee orange and Bama red hat. I can assure you that was not intentional, but thanks for noticing that, Austin.
We got a roll tide from our good buddy Clint Moses. Let me tell you something, it's going to be a wild ride. And, you know, it's so wild that we already got our first caller sitting and waiting patiently. Caden the man. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Good evening, Jackson, and good evening, Jeffrey. How you fellas doing tonight?
I'm
We're
doing pretty good.
How you doing tonight?
Oh, coming close to losing to South Carolina. Embarrassing. And then losing to Vanderbilt? You gotta be kidding me.
I know, right? It's like, you know what I just realized, Jeffrey?
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 weeks away from Halloween. And we already got our Halloween scare.
Losing to Vanderbilt and almost losing to South Carolina.
Oh, man.
I'm just glad the South Carolina game wasn't a loss, because if they had lost both those games, I mean, their odds of making the playoffs are probably done. I mean, they'd had to have won out at that point in that scenario, but thankfully they won. Now they still have a margin for error, but I'm not confident going into this game at all whatsoever against Tennessee with the way they've looked the last couple of weeks. But we got JT Thompson, though, bringing a super chat and a great comment here. Go Dogs, just saying the big game is in prime time between Georgia and Texas. That's a big game as well, but definitely appreciate you for stopping by, JT, and for the super chat. Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Good buddy.
Yeah, and speaking of the Georgia-Texas game, I've got Georgia winning that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one, Georgia-Texas, which I'll be honest with you, like, because while I'm doing the Alabama postgame show on Saturday, I'll probably just be, recapping with Johnny Burch, which tune in, by the way. Not only will I be recapping, I'll just be, like, scrolling on my phone, be like, okay, Georgia-Texas, come on. Quinn Ewers made a 5-yard play. Yeah, it's going to be funny.
It's a big game for sure. I think, to be honest, it would help out Alabama, obviously, if they won. But if Georgia didn't win, it would help them out if they lost again, had a second loss, because then that kind of pushes them out of the conversation more so. Whereas if you have Georgia beating Texas, then you've got one-loss teams everywhere. I mean, I don't know. People can look at it different ways, like, because you could say, well, if Bama wins, then if both Georgia and Texas have a loss in the SEC, that could help too. But to me, like, Texas, if they win, that will solidify them, and then it's like the battle for the next spot. But if Alabama loses to Tennessee, then they're in bad shape of having a shot for the SEC title game and the playoffs.
And let's be honest here, Jackson and I were just talking before the show, and I was saying to Jackson, like, Georgia's a defense that will come back in a situation like this, lose to Bama, but win the 2 next games at home. This game is pretty much going to be Georgia just demonstrating that when they get in a bad mood, And when they get in a really, really bad mood, that's when they really will start beating teams bad. Because let's be honest, Georgia's done that before. Let's not forget they did it to Tennessee 3 years in a row. They did it to Oregon. They did it to Clemson twice. They did it to Ole Miss. They done it to everybody.
They tend to shove everybody, that's for sure.
No, they not just shove Jackson, but they ragdoll.
Oh, yeah.
This on the first edition of this show, Georgia will continuously ragdoll after ragdoll after ragdoll until there's nobody left on their schedule to play them in the regular season that's got good competition.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect Bama, but come on. You get Georgia in a very bad mood, in a foul mood, upset, buddy, I am going to feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
I just think with Georgia this year, the thing that's concerned me is, like, I know they've had in the past scares, games that they didn't play all that well, and then they turned around and won, national championships with Kirby Smart. But this year, it's like, okay, you've got the Kentucky game, played terrible, found a way to win. Then you lose to Alabama, who's clearly looking worse. And then you struggle with Mississippi State, especially on defense, and they're a terrible football team as well. It definitely just feels different for Georgia overall, that they're just not as dominant, especially on defense. It just doesn't seem so. Now, that could change. Obviously, they could go out there and beat Texas. I would not be shocked in the slightest if they did, but they just look different, though. Both Bama and Georgia look significantly different this year. They don't look as good. And, I mean, you're just seeing results that consistently, week over week now, of poorer play than usual from both teams. Because if Georgia was, truly elite this season, you would think, oh, hey, the way Bama's playing, they'd have beaten them, but they didn't. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what that means for both teams. It just doesn't look all that good, on paper, the way both teams are playing, because we have multiple games now of seeing both teams play worse. This comment really kills me right here. I would rather Alabama lose to Vanderbilt than Georgia or Tennessee. I get that for rivalry purposes, top of the SEC purposes, but what are your thoughts on that, Caden and Jackson? Do you agree with that?
Oh, I'll take it a step further. I don't want to lose to Auburn.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't want to lose to anybody, but
no.
I mean, if y'all had to lose to Georgia, that would be a fair point. But losing to Vanderbilt, that's just complete nonsense.
Ugh.
I mean, it seems like Jalen.
It literally felt like watching Linus lose his blanket. Like he's going through withdrawals.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
And JT Thompson makes a good point here in the super chat, $5. JT, I completely agree with you. Go Dogs! Just saying, the big game the big game is in prime time. That is correct, sir. And I will be watching that game. but here's my problem with Bama, and no disrespect to the Crimson Tide, but what happened? What happened? Like, come on. Where was the thunder y'all were bringing, that Roll Tide Thunder that y'all were bringing? It seems like Roll Tide Thunder is not a thing no more. Nah. Georgia's making y'all look like puppy chow. No disrespect, but come on now.
Puppy chow. Oh,
I mean, honestly, I can say Alabama definitely doesn't. They lack the edge and the toughness that was displayed throughout the entirety of Nick Saban's tenure. I agree, but that's probably because Nick Saban's not there anymore. I mean, obviously, I do think they were starting to trend down a little bit anyway, even without, even with Nick Saban, rather. Like, he was still, the last couple seasons as the head coach, it just seemed like that edge was slightly lost, and he kind of was getting more, quiet during games. But then, like, at that last season, he got it back, and he was starting to be like his old self, and it came back to the team, and that's why they made the run after losing to Texas and almost won a title, except Milroe fumbled. But the thing is, when you look at him this year, though, like you said, they don't have that thunder, they don't have that edge. But even with Saban, though, if he was the coach, I don't think they would have as much of an edge as they had earlier in his tenure. I think he was not losing it, but I think it was fading slightly. But I do think with Kalen DeBoer being the head coach now and a different vibe, different culture being, put in place, it's definitely, it made Bama lose the edge quicker. Because clearly they're just not as good, in fundamentals. It's not even about talent; it's just fundamentals and playing effort plays game in and game out. Like you're not seeing the effort at times because really, if Bama had played the way they did against Wisconsin and against Georgia in the first half, there's no way they're in a one-score game with South Carolina. There's no way they lose to Vandy, but somewhere the effort's been lost, and they need to get that back in this game, or they're not going to beat Tennessee.
And let's just point out that Alabama is not full of 5-star dummies. No, this is a good team that has played very well, but they need to work on their defense. They need to get Jalen Milroe in a better situation on their offense because, again, like I said, if y'all going into Knoxville, you're going to really need to step up his game because if y'all don't, Knoxville's going to be partying like if it was 1998 in the era of Peyton Manning with their group. So, let's be honest. That's a whole nother situation for a whole nother day.
Absolutely. I think you're muted, Jack.
Mike, he's getting...
Sorry about that. Yeah,
I was like, I can't hear you.
I heard some echoes going, hello, hello. But I was like, what was it my mic? Was it your mic? Was it his mic? Nope. But anyway, yeah, 1998 was T. Martin at the helm for Tennessee, but Peyton Manning's last year was in 97. One thing Peyton Manning couldn't do is beat Florida, but again, that's another discussion for another day.
Like I said, they're going to be partying like it's the Peyton Manning era. Like if Dolly Parton was throwing a huge old dang party for Tennessee. Like, come on, man.
True.
Like Tennessee, let's be honest, they're full of 5-star dummies.
Okay.
I even told my managers who are big Tennessee fans, I said, if y'all played Ohio State, we would smoke y'all. No questions asked. On the road or at home, we would smoke y'all. No questions asked.
Yeah, I think that Ohio State is a better team than Tennessee by a decent amount. Tennessee could beat them if they had a good game, but they're not playing well right now. This is a huge game for both teams because the way that Alabama and Tennessee are playing gives you no confidence in either team, and they look about even right now with their play, except that it's the opposite sides of the ball that are struggling. For Tennessee, it's their offense, whereas for Alabama, it's their defense. But really the only thing separating with this game is home field advantage. Tennessee has the home field advantage. So I will say it's not a night game, which you could say maybe helps. I don't know how much if you're a believer in, the night atmosphere being, significantly better than the day atmosphere, having like even more of an edge to the home team. But I still think that like Tennessee's it's going to be an insane crowd. It's going to impact Alabama. But it is a pretty even game overall with the way both teams have played. Like literally after Tennessee, played Oklahoma in that first half and was destroying them, and the way Bama was destroying Georgia at first. Then in the second halves of both those games for Tennessee and Bama, they struggled, and then ever since they've been playing poorly. So, and both suffered a loss to teams they shouldn't have lost to. So they're both on the same trajectory, but opposite sides of the ball have been the struggles for both teams.
And let's point this fact out. Let me point this out too. Tennessee is one of those teams that had a one-year hit wonder with Hyde and Hooker. Peyton, like everybody said, he was the next Peyton Manning. Give him credit, he was. But the thing is with Nico, they overhype him. They overhyped Hyde and Hooker at Tennessee. They thought, we could beat Georgia. No, they didn't. So either way, either if Bama loses or, either way, it's still going to end up either Georgia plays one of y'all in a rematch or one of y'all in the SEC title game and throws y'all around Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It goes either way.
Mm. Well, I mean, the issue for Tennessee with, that season with Hendon Hooker was the fact, like, Hooker was fantastic all season long, but their offensive line was susceptible. And Georgia's D-line that year was elite, just absolutely insane. So, yeah, they manhandled Tennessee's offensive line, got to Hooker on a regular basis, and really couldn't allow him to do what he needed to do. Plus, Tennessee had great receivers that year. And Hendon Hooker was a veteran quarterback that transferred from Virginia Tech. He was okay at Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech wasn't, they weren't like a great team. They just had, they had a couple of okay players, but most of those guys left when the coach back then got fired and Hooker left too. But the thing is that Hooker had a lot of success with those receivers. Now you've got Nico, who's a young guy. He could get better. I do think he was overhyped somewhat, but you can say that about any quarterback. Kay Klubnik, people said he was overhyped after he struggled at first at Clemson. He's playing a whole lot better. I know ACC's worst competition, but sometimes it takes guys a while to get going. I mean, even like Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, he's been all right, but he's going to get better with time. So Nico probably just needs more reps, another year under his belt. He's probably going to get better. Plus, Tennessee's had some injuries to the receiver room. They don't have the receivers that Hendon Hooker had. So if Nico was throwing the ball to those guys, they probably would be doing better. But the thing is Tennessee has not addressed their offensive line. And you cannot have success in the SEC at an elite level unless your offensive line's good. Because, and honestly, any Georgia fan would admit this that is at least honest about their team. Stetson Bennett would have never had the success he had at Georgia if he wasn't protected as well as he was. He was protected so well those seasons he was at Georgia when he was a starting quarterback that he never got sacked hardly at all. So he's never going to be an NFL quarterback starting level anyway. He'll be a backup forever because he cannot get sacked. He would get destroyed. But Georgia's O-line was able to protect, and that's why they were able to win a national championship. If Nico had the protection, he probably would do better, but he just doesn't have it.
Well, also Jalen Milroe needs his protection because the Georgia defense that night, woo, buddy, was really up his rear end.
Mm-hmm.
And no disrespect, Jeffrey, but here's the thing. If y'all were to play Ohio State again, that would be a whole other scenario of Jalen Milroe getting punished for 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And as our good friend Sonny Verma says, smash that like button, folks. Exactly.
Smash the like button.
And let's get Alabama at the Voice of College Football to 3,000 subs. But first, let's get it to 2,500 subs as we are 65 subs away from that magic number. Let's get it there. And you can also check out, see what Sonny's got to say about the Illinois Fighting Illini on Locked On Illini Cast, the Big Ten show, and he's also a wonderful contributor to Texas at the Voice of College Football. Check him out, see what he's got to say about all of Illinois athletics, and especially about the Chicago Bears as well on Bears on Tap. This guy is a wizard when it comes to Chicago sports. I know I'm making sure I take advice from him about the Bears, the Bulls, the Cubs, and the White Sox and Illinois athletics. That's my go-to right there. What about you, Jeffrey?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sonny is fantastic and always appreciate when he stops by to the different shows. Absolutely. But definitely, Sonny, if you want to check out Illinois, or like you said, Cubs and other teams like that in the Chicago area, Sonny is the guy for you. Absolutely. He's fantastic. But to get back to Caden's point, though, about Jalen Milroe, I think another problem for him, too, is like that Texas game, even though Milroe was like early in his tenure of being a starting quarterback in that game last year, he also wasn't being used right. And I was like, clamoring and saying to Alabama fans after that game, like, he needs to be the starting quarterback. He's good, but he needs to be, put in space more. He needs to be able to use his legs. And it seems like this year they're kind of reverting away from it again, like they were with Nick Saban at the beginning of last year. Like, to me, I feel like Milroe is better when he's able to use his legs, when he's able to use his athleticism and get out in space and roll out some. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, when he's in the pocket, he can pick you apart. Well, the pocket ain't really lasting all that, well, like you said, the O-line hasn't been as good for Alabama. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So, and at times Milroe can force balls, in the middle of the field and get picked off. That's what he did against Texas. That's what he's been doing the last couple of weeks. He's had a couple picks. So he needs to get out in space. I would settle him down, be able to use his athleticism, and I feel like he would have the whole team would have more success if they would do that.
That is true. Okay, man, anything else you got for the Alabama Crimson Tide this week?
Well, there was something I needed to address with Sonny Venera that I need to get off my chest to him. There was something I needed to tell something to Sonny Venera if he can come on the show, please, because I'd like to tell him on the voice of college football of Alabama so he can hear this clearly. If he's listening or watching.
We have the link in the chat, so definitely Sonny was in there. If you'd like to come on, Sonny, definitely would appreciate that.
Yeah,
Sonny, please come on in here because I've got a few things two things I got to say to you, buddy.
Oh, Lord. This is going to be good.
Sonny, Sonny, where are you, Sonny?
Hopefully he's still watching. I don't know. Maybe he's not watching anymore, but I'm kind of intrigued now.
Sonny, there's a few things I need to get straight with you, buddy, about Chicago sports, buddy.
Well, I mean, check him out on X, see what he's got to say about Locked On Illini and Bears on Tap and Illini Cast and the Big Ten show. I mean,
well, he not only is he part of the Illinois Fighting Alumni and Chicago Bears, he also does the Chicago Cubs and the Northwestern Wildcats. Funny enough, Sonny is a Northwestern Wildcats fan, if nobody ever knew about that. And one of his favorite college football teams besides Illinois is Northwestern.
Aren't they rivals, though? Like Northwestern?
Yeah, but here's the problem, Jeffrey. According to my notes here, Sonny Ventura's Wildcats play my Ohio State Buckeyes in 3 weeks in Wrigley Field. Wow. Surprisingly, I know I'm going to bet probably Sonny Ventura is going to be at that game, and he's going to be like, oh, Wrigley Field's going to bring the home victory to the Wildcats to beat the Buckeyes. Well, I've got news for Sonny Ventura. You are a 5-star dummy. Because the Northwestern Wildcats will not win against the Ohio State Buckeyes, even if you ask the Chicago Cubs to be in your corner against the Buckeyes, because it will not help you, because the Ohio State Buckeyes will dominate you like they always do. You 5-star dummy. So I think we can end this off with a go Bucks, because Sonny Ventura, Ohio State owns Northwestern, and that's the bottom line, because Caden, the man, the most evil Ohio State fan on YouTube, said so, buddy, son. Woo, buddy. So, Jackson, Jeffrey, good to hear from you fellas as always. And Sonny, if you got the gall, Sonny boy, get on here and call me out. I'll be here all night waiting for you to get on here and call me out. So, Sonny boy, I'm waiting for you. I'm on to defend your Wildcats and Cubs against my Buckeyes. Come on, if you got the goal. Come on.
Well, we'll say thank you for coming on, and we wish you a wonderful night. Here we go. Sleep
go,
well.
Buckeyes.
Roll Tide. I don't know if I'd be calling. I don't know if somebody that's got 4 or 5 shows is a 5-star dummy, but that's just
I mean, I will say that I think it's kind of funny to be a fan of Northwestern and Illinois, but hey, I mean, it's not crazy. I don't hate Duke. I'm a North Carolina fan, but I don't hate Duke. I like Duke, all right. I don't even hate Purdue. I mean, like, I don't. It's just I will say, like, Purdue basketball destroying Indiana can be frustrating, but still, like, okay, I can live with it. I try not to hate teams, but I will say though, Sonny is very intelligent. I will say that Sonny knows his stuff. But I would think Sonny would say that it would be very hard for Northwestern to beat Ohio State. Is it impossible? Nothing's impossible. I mean, Purdue beat Ohio State. Iowa beat Ohio State. It's not impossible, but Caden's, got a point that it's
True.
most likely not going to happen. But I do believe that that Ohio State's got a great chance to beat Northwestern. But yeah, definitely, Sonny knows his stuff. You definitely want to check him out, though. He's the go-to for Illinois.
Well, there is another thing you want to check out while we're waiting for callers. You could check out the Alabama channel where you can become a YouTube member. I'm going to tell you right now. Well, hold on one sec. Boop. You can become a Crimson Faithful member for $2.99 a month, where you can have a loyalty badge next to your name and a custom emoji to use in the comments section and in the live chat. You become a Saban Disciple for $4.99, where you will have priority reply to comments and access to a monthly hangout. And finally, for $9.99, you can become a Bear Bryant legend, where you can give out content requests and connect on social media with the host of Alabama with the Voice College Football. And I'll tell you right now, it'll be fun. So you will get a little something worth your money for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, the monthly hangout, that's awesome right there, for sure.
Oh,
like you don't want to miss that stuff. There's a lot of great content coming on the Alabama channel, 100% from Jackson and Johnny and me as well. All three of us making content over here, doing yeoman's work, and definitely appreciate your guys' support. It's going to be fun, definitely trying to grow the channel and also growing the other channels as well. The Indiana channel, you want to check out the Indiana channel as well, making content over there at Indiana, the voice of college football. And we got a lot of new channels. Mark Rogers, tons of new channels on the way. So if you're a fan of teams that don't even have a channel yet, they're coming. Absolutely. But definitely appreciate you guys for being here at the Alabama channel, the voice of college football. Like Jackson said, you're not going to want to miss any of the stuff that we got coming down the road. And really appreciate it if you guys become a member. Absolutely.
Agreed. And if you have any show host ideas for teams that don't have a channel, well, email Mark at MarkRogers, Gmail, MarkRogersTV at gmail.com for your ideas.
I like these picks by Steve here. He's got bonus picks. Georgia over Texas, 38-27. Indiana over Nebraska. Love to see that. 35-21. And Illinois over the what team is that again? Oh yeah, the Cheaters. 24-21. Yeah, the Michigan Wolverines. Ohio State and Michigan fans will never let this go. It is so hilarious. So
I feel like we're going to be hearing about it, when one eternity later, it's Michigan cheated, or Ohio State cheated, this, that, and the other.
Out of those three games, man, which one are you the most confident in Steve's picks?
Georgia over Texas.
Honestly, I would say Indiana over Nebraska. I know people don't believe in Indiana. Indiana's favored by 7 for a reason. Come on, gotta give them their credit here. But
that's true.
Georgia is a 4-point underdog. It's at Texas. I believe they got a good shot, but I would go with Indiana. Even Illinois, I could see Illinois beating Michigan. That Purdue game, though, really hurts my opinion of Illinois. I was thinking highly of when they beat Nebraska and they hung with Penn State, I guess you could call it. But, man, against Purdue, you can't beat Purdue in overtime. I know Purdue made a QB change, and sometimes that can be lightning in a bottle when you don't have film on the other guy, but still, that shouldn't have happened. But I would say my confidence would be mostly Indiana over Nebraska, then Georgia over Texas, and then Illinois over Michigan. What are your thoughts on Steve picking Tennessee?
Alabama and Tennessee is basically a toss-up for everybody, and I completely understand why it would be, because both teams have not looked so good. I mean, they're basically just limping over to the 2024 edition of the third Saturday in October. It's they haven't looked so good. I mean, Tennessee got lucky yet again against Florida. They always that's like their kryptonite for some reason. It is like their kryptonite.
I will say it was definitely their kryptonite when they had like a 17-game losing streak against them. It was ugly. But at least now, despite the fact that they are winning ugly against Florida, they're winning. You know, at least they've won 2 of them at home in the last couple of years. They lost the one at Florida last year. That was like the only good win Florida even had. Yeah. But still, like, at least they've gotten a couple wins against them. But yeah, like Tennessee, significantly better team. You shouldn't be, struggling with Florida at this point. No. I mean, this is not Florida of Spurrier. It's not Florida of Urban Meyer. It's not even Florida under Dan Mullen. Like, this is not a great Florida team. And you still are struggling to beat them. I mean, come on.
But those couple wins have all been in Knoxville, none of which have been in Gainesville.
Like, they can't beat them at Florida. That's their kryptonite. They cannot win at Florida, but at least they have been able to win at home. But yeah, they lost 17 in a row. 17 in a row. I'm pretty sure that's the stat that they have. 17 in a row against Florida. They lost every year. It didn't matter if it was at home or it was at Florida. And a lot of years, Tennessee was comparable with them. They just couldn't beat them. But yeah, it's abysmal. But definitely right there, Indiana, the voice of college football. The link right there in the chat and on screen. Appreciate if you guys sub to the channel. You got Abel Kane's brother says, I heard Alabama is ranked #1 in recruiting, so DeBoer and staff are recruiting well. Huh. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like I said earlier in the show, recruiting's not the problem. The talent's not the problem. It's the discipline of play. I wouldn't say it's like the discipline of coaching. I mean, I can't speak to Kalen DeBoer's, ability to, I don't really want to say discipline, but like keep your team on track. Like if you're not like following what the team's supposed to be doing, then, like discipline happens, like you get a suspension or whatever. But the thing is, like, he didn't have this problem at Washington. He didn't have this problem at, other places. So, I mean, I don't really think that's the issue. I just feel like right now he's just having an issue trying to get Alabama to play well, consistently and treat every opponent the same. Like, oh, well, it's Vanderbilt. We don't have to try hard. We can still beat it. Like, no, you got to treat Vanderbilt like you would treat Georgia. I know that. When you look at Vanderbilt, you're like, oh, we're favored by 3+ touchdowns. We should easily beat them. But that's not the way Nick Saban approached games. And I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer doesn't not approach those type of games in the right way either. But it does seem like the players aren't getting the message. They're not getting the message at all. Because you can't beat Georgia and then lose to Vanderbilt. I mean, that's just – on paper just looks stupid. That'd be like – simulating a video game and that happens. And I'm sure tons of people have simulated Madden and NCAA college football games where your team does that. You beat a top 10 team in the simulation and the next week you lose to an unranked team. It's terrible. That happens in a video game more often than it does in real life, especially when you got a great team. I'm only talking about elite teams, not teams like Penn State or whatever, or even Tennessee. I'm talking about like the Georgias and the Bamas. Those teams don't beat a top 5 team and then lose to a Vanderbilt. But Alabama's doing that now. So Nick Saban, it's over. It's not the same anymore. They just have to figure out how to, treat every opponent the same, and Kalen DeBoer's got to get the players focused. And that's, it's not happening right now. I think it can happen, but it is a little bit worrisome though.
Well, that is true. And I think that Jalen got a huge sponsor as of today. So I'm going to see if I can pull up his Instagram right quick. That's not it. Nope. Oh, but you do want to check out the Disputed National Champions College Football's Historical 1990s Reset from Mark Rogers. As you will learn in this book, you will learn what happened in the 90s, how the decade changed the sport, why championship results should be questioned, how to critically think through the scenarios to appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined a decade of college football. It challenges readers to explore and critically evaluate the decisions that shaped the national championship landscape, unlock the mysteries of college football's most debated decade. Grab your copy now. And I'll tell you something, that is an early Christmas gift you want to get. So if you're doing some Christmas shopping, go ahead and get this book, my friends, because you're gonna need it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely. Mark Rogers himself writing a book about national champions and disputed ones at that. It can't get any better than that. So you definitely want to go check that out for sure. And it's a perfect time with Christmas coming around the corner, a perfect Christmas gift for the college football fan in your life. And maybe even someone that isn't a college football fan. It's still a good read. Absolutely. But here we got another prediction from Steve here saying Louisville over the U, 38-30. How you liking that prediction? You think that one holds up?
Either one would not surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Miami or Louisville won this one because that game just screams toss-up.
Oh, yeah, it screams toss-up because Miami's mid. I mean, no matter what, Miami fans want to say, they're still kind of a mid team. They're just finding ways to win. Imagine, Jackson, if they had a loss to Cal and Virginia Tech right now. They had those two losses. Everybody would be saying Miami's garbage, okay, like they always are. But they have survived. So, I mean, I think Miami is – that's awesome for Milroe. I feel like for Miami, though, the fact that they're undefeated and they're ranked in the top 10 is the only reason people think they're great. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad. They have talent, but they barely beat Cal and Virginia Tech. Barely. And they and arguably should have lost to both, especially Virginia Tech. But, I mean, they're not a fantastic team. I mean, I know that good teams have been struggling against, not great opponents, like we talked about with Georgia and Alabama to no end, but Miami's not an elite team. Problem with Louisville is that Louisville losing to Notre Dame, that makes sense. It is what it is. On the road, it's a tough game. Notre Dame's out to prove that they're not horrible after choking against Northern Illinois. They've been playing better, but then they lost to SMU at home. And I'm like, that's not great. Like, you should have won that game. I know SMU's playing better, but Louisville was at home. But, I mean, honestly, Louisville's better than Cal and Virginia Tech, and Miami is going on the road. I could see them losing. I think I picked Miami to win. I think I did in my prediction video the other day on Only Talk Sports. I think I picked Miami, but I literally said it could go either way. I'm like you, Jackson. That is like the ultimate 50-50 game. I don't trust Miami still, despite them being undefeated, and Louisville's underwhelmed so far, so – it's a big game for Miami, obviously, because of the fact that, if they win, it keeps them in the playoff race, ACC race, all that kind of stuff. But if Louisville wins, I mean, it would kind of get them back on the right track and, keep them somewhat in the ACC race, if you want to even say that. They still have a shot. Steve says Jeff Brom should have stayed at Purdue. The thing with a statement like that, I will say, Steve, is that obviously, like, you take Scott Frost, going from UCF to Nebraska. You remember, that Jackson, like, everybody said it was a perfect hire and all that. What happened? He goes to Nebraska, he loses. So what do they do? What they do is people say that he should have stayed at UCF. That's how it always works. If you don't work out somewhere, people say, oh, you should have stayed at your previous stop. You never know whether it's going to work out or not. Imagine when Nick Saban was at Michigan State and then he went to LSU and just say he didn't win at LSU, then people would have said, oh, he should have stayed at Michigan State. That's the only thing. Like, I agree with Steve here because I've said statements like this before. But when I look at him in hindsight, it's like, did anybody think that Jeff Brom leaving Purdue to Louisville was a bad move? Not really. Because the ACC is an easier league, easier conference. It's his alma mater, whatever. With Scott Frost, he's going from UCF to Nebraska, way better programs, his alma mater. But then when you look at it not working out, Jeff Brom's done fine at Louisville. Louisville was garbage with Satterfield. especially toward the
Oh.
end. Just absolute garbage. They're better now.
Yeah,
But
because like
in
they
Purdue,
got
it kind of seemed like he
stability.
maxed out what he could do at Purdue.
Yeah.
Kind of felt like he maxed out what he could do there.
Yeah, I mean, because like he wasn't gonna get Purdue to a Big Ten title game after 2022. That wasn't happening. You know, that was like the best season they could get. Like same with 2018, 2017. And you know, the many phone calls that I've had with our friend Austin from Sports Talk with Austin, you know, he's like, how's Brom gonna be at Louisville? I told him you're gonna be very happy with Jeff Brom at Louisville. That I can promise you. And I'll go as far as say he's gonna do way better than Bobby Petrino did at Louisville. I mean, I believe he can.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, man, is that, you know, honestly, you know, when you talk about Jeff Brom at Purdue, he did really good things there because there was an era before that where they were horrible. I mean, Indiana was beating them badly, and remember the Kevin Wilson era.
Yeah.
Like the 2016, 2015 season, like Purdue was awful. So they're better. You know, they're better now as a program overall, even though right now at this very moment they're horrible again. But, you know, the foundation's there with what Jeff Brom did. The issue for Purdue, I feel like, and I know that this sounds idiotic to even say because of the fact that if Cignetti leaves Indiana, then they could just completely, you know, go back to being terrible again. But honestly, I think Indiana has more, and I know people in chat, you can, you know, chime in on this if you want to. But honestly, I feel like Indiana has more of a chance to be a competitive football team in the Big Ten than Purdue long term.
Obviously.
I don't know if you agree with that, Jackson, but I just feel like the foundation that Indiana has, they've got, to me, more NIL.
I feel like Purdue has gone back to where they were with Daryl Hazel from 2013 to 2016.
Oh yeah, he was awful. I mean, Indiana fans love the guy because it was an automatic win for Indiana. I mean, he was awful. But I mean, do you think that's true though? I mean, do you think Indiana has a better foundation? You know, better NIL. I wouldn't say better facilities. I don't. I mean, Purdue's stadium's a little bit bigger, but I just feel like Indiana has more of a chance to be successful now in the modern era of college sports than Purdue does.
Unfortunately, I don't think richer history is going to save you.
But see, that's the thing. Like, I agree with Steve. Like, Purdue's better than Indiana historically.
Yeah.
Like, they've beaten them 71-42 in the rivalry. What I'm saying is that even when you look at basketball, Indiana just loaded up in the portal and got all these players, right? Like, you saw what Indiana basketball did.
Oh yeah.
In the offseason, Purdue can't get guys like that. Purdue's entire basketball team the last several years has been 7-footers. And they've had just good enough guard play to be good. But now that you don't have that, Purdue might fall apart. I'm not saying they will. I do think Painter's a really good coach. But I'm just saying, I've even heard from Painter himself that, Purdue basketball does not have the NIL to compete for, really, really good players. Even Jaden Ivey was only a 4-star guy. I know it's not all about stars, but at the end of the day, you do have to be able to, get high-quality players. I know Indiana's probably not going to get him in football, but Julian Lewis is considering Indiana. Julian Lewis. And I think that just Indiana has more money, more NIL, to have a shot to compete in this era. I know that sounds insane, but I mean, what they just did firing Tom Allen, giving him an almost $20 million buyout, paying Cignetti almost $5 million a year. They got a lot of portal guys. It wasn't cheap. I'm just saying, I don't know. Purdue just looks like they're lost. They don't have the foundation
like a lost puppy dog.
They're lost. And in basketball, it might start being exposed more now that it's all about the portal. It's all about NIL. Just say Purdue has a bad season in basketball. Those players aren't going to stay committed to Painter. That a lot of those guys have been loyal, but if you're not winning, they're going to hit the portal. That's the way it works. You can't keep guys anymore The loyalty isn't there. It's sad, but it's true. So, I mean, I agree with this if they find their version of Cignetti. But, hey, I mean, it's taken Indiana football 120 years to find a guy like Cignetti. Okay? I mean, the last guy they had was Tom Allen, I guess, but really Bill Mallory, and that was 40 years ago. So, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. But we know somebody that's had a great day, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this Instagram post of our starting quarterback, Jalen Milroe, getting an NIL deal with Panina America. And as they say, game recognizes game. We couldn't be more excited to add one of the biggest stars in the game to the Panini family. Honored to announce our exclusive partnership with Jalen Milroe. So, how are we feeling about this deal, everyone? Like, chat, you give out what you think.
I mean, honestly, I feel like it just shows that, I mean, Alabama, with the amount of financial support they have, you know, and all that, it just helps with the program, you know, being able to stay at this high of a level. Because, I mean, we're in the NIL era so far now that, like, and everyone's doing it. Like, you need these type of deals for players to stay. I mean, sadly, as much as you love, like, players being loyal, if a player is going to get more playing time and more NIL somewhere else, they're going to leave. So I think, like, deals like this just showcase that Alabama's at the top of the sport, and they're going to be able to continue to get and keep, which is almost more important than just getting recruits, is being able to keep them over a, you know, 3 or 4 year period instead of them transferring again. I think it's big for Alabama, and it's big for Jalen Milroe. I mean, so I think that's, you know, those are my thoughts on that. I mean, I still feel like that all of this, you know, the way NIL is set up is kind of broken. I still think it is. I think players should get NIL, and I've said this before, even on my own channel and on the Voice of College Football. I've said that I believe that players should get NIL, but I do think the way it's being done is kind of messed up. it is kind of broken, but it is great for players like Milroe and the top guys in the sport because they're making a ton.
Yeah. I mean, I'm liking what Milroe's bringing, but it's like, although this year I'm a little bit nervous for him because, I mean, Johnny on last Saturday's edition of the postgame show, he was talking about how jittery he was during that game against South Carolina. I'm really hoping he doesn't.
Have you noticed it does seem like a lot more players have been kind of jittery lately? They just don't look as composed. I don't know why. I don't know.
You think there's a deal that you think there's like something going on, and like what's happening? It's like,
well, I mean, you don't know how these NIL deals are working either. I mean, there could be like clauses and then like, oh, if you don't play, you know, it's good, then you're like, you're not going to get this amount of money. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of grasping at straws, but it just kind of seems weird. You see a lot more composed players. There's just a lot of distractions going on, and then it's not even with NIL. I mean, did you see Carson Beck? You saw the news with Carson Beck, right? And his relationship, rather. That's all over the internet. And it's like, okay, is Carson Beck, is he locked in? Is he focused? You know, I'm just saying. Like, I mean, obviously stuff like this happened in the past, but we're in the social media era now. By far, we've been for years, but like it's hyper now. Like, people are just on it all the time. Tweeting everything, posting everything, whatever. And now with all this NIL at play, and, you know, like, oh, you don't do well, you get benched. I mean, like, look at Oklahoma. I mean, that was a short stint for Jackson Arnold, right? Like, Jackson Arnold, Dylan Gabriel's out the door. It's all you, Arnold. And then now, a couple games later, he's out the door. Well, I mean, he's still in the program, but, you know, like, it's now Hawkins or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's a different era now. You don't last if you don't play well. And this happened in the past, but it did seem like in the past teams would stick with a bad guy longer than they are now. And I don't know if NIL is the reason or what, or just other factors with social media. Like, oh, well, if you lose a couple games, then the coach is on the hot seat. I mean, look at Neil Brown, Jackson. Neil Brown went from, oh, he's done, he's fired, to, oh, he's a great coach. He's better than Josh Heupel. That's what West Virginia fans said. I will not let them forget. They said, oh, he's better than Josh Heupel. Well, now he's back to the dumpster fire again, all in a span of like 4 or 5 games. So
yeah,
that's
and that
football
statement, my God, that statement he made about how
that was bad.
You should be happy that you're tailgating. Most people would love the tailgate. It's like nobody. Have you ever like said something in your lifetime where it's like you're right for saying something, but you're wrong for even saying it out loud? That was one of those things, because like I know I've done that plenty of times, and I can tell you right now, I've said so many things in my lifetime where it's like I knew I was right, but I was wrong for bringing it up. That's Neil Brown for you in a nutshell. Because like
the thing is, man, with the Neil Brown stuff is I wouldn't even care about it at all, honestly.
No.
If West Virginia fans just weren't so quick to crown him a great coach after one arguably okay season. It wasn't even a great year. I mean, you beat North Carolina in the bowl game when they didn't have any players playing. And they lost to freaking Houston last year, who was garbage. And everyone else that they beat was terrible. They weren't good. And then oh, he's a great coach now. And then this year it's like, oh, he's trash again. Neil Brown's never been good. He's never been good. And I don't think he's awful either. I just think he's mid. I mean, he's just a mid coach. His record is like 34-32. You cannot get any more average than that at a program in West Virginia that I would say is above average. When you say that, Jackson, like when you do like a tier list ranking of programs, you got your elite, like blue blood all-time programs, your really, really good programs. I say West Virginia is above average. They've had a history. They've had success, but they're not an elite program. They're not a great program. They're just above average. But Neil Brown is a mid coach coaching an above average team. So he's underperforming, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, but, I mean you can't have that kind of record in Morgantown. And all I could say for West Virginia is, if they want to show that they're still alive for the Big 12 title, or they want to win out, now would be a good time. Because you got a big one in
West
Morgantown.
Virginia fans trashed Dana Holgorsen, and he did better. He had a better record than Neil Brown. And I think I want Dana Holgorsen like 61-41 at West Virginia, if I recall.
Oh, yeah.
And Neil Brown's 34-32. So Neil Brown's basically on track to be like, instead of 61-41, he's on track to be like 56-52.
Oh my God. Like what they did to like Bill Stewart, where they were like, hey, I'm going to need you to go ahead and pack your things, but we want you to coach 2011, and we're going to have you hire Dana Holgorsen, be your OC, and then he's going to be your replacement. Okay, thanks.
That's wrong. I mean, that should leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Like if I was a West Virginia fan, like I couldn't even defend that. That's
because like in the summer of 2011, where it was like, oh well, he was trying to do things to keep his job, and I was like, well, duh, what'd you think would happen? Like, what'd you think would happen? My God, that's bad.
Yeah, that's messed up. To get back to the Carson Beck thing for a second, though, I mean, how much of a distraction do you think that it is? I mean, do you think it's not? Because I mean, obviously, college players, like they have, when they're football, basketball, whatever, they have their lives off the field, off the court. Sure. That honestly, I don't care about. I mean, I just don't. Like, it's their personal lives. Like, everybody has their own personal lives when they're not on TV or playing on the field. Like everybody has that. And before social media, most people respected that. And unless something was really egregious, it never came out into the news, right? But now we live in this era where everyone has to know everything, blah, 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 blah. That's just the way that it is. But do you think that it's a distraction for Carson Beck?
Oh, plenty.
I mean, I think it's somewhat of a distraction. I mean, obviously. But at the same time, it's like if this was back in like the 70s, no one would really care at all, right? Like no one would care. and I think the other issue is too, and I watched the podcast a long time ago. This is years ago. I don't remember what it was, but there was like a basketball player for Indiana or something like that who was saying that back in the 1960s when he played on campus, today when you take like Trace Jackson Davis, when he was on campus, every time people saw it's Trace Jackson Davis, hey man, how's it going? You gonna win tonight? All that kind of stuff. People are just like, it don't matter who it is. But back when that player, and he was actually the best player on this basketball team for Indiana back in the 60s. When he was on campus, he said barely anybody talked to him. He just went to class. He, did all of his class work, whatever, maybe, whatever he did off the court, if he went to, a restaurant or he went to, the library, it didn't matter. It was just like he just lived a normal person. And then he played basketball for Indiana. But that was a different era. Now people, with the sports players, everybody just, I wouldn't say flocks to them, but like people are, they pay attention to them a lot more now, and they approach them a lot more. And it's almost like you're more special now. Not that that's a problem, but you just didn't have that. So like me and you, Jackson, if we were basketball or football players for Alabama or Indiana or whatever, back in the 1960s, even if we were the best players on the team, no one would really even have said anything. Today, you wouldn't even be able to go a block down the road without a crowd around you. It's just a different time. So yeah, everything can be a distraction. That's why you got to put the blinders on. So even though now everybody knows that Carson Beck has this relationship, if this was the 70s, it wouldn't matter. And the only other reason people are really talking about it is because of who it is too, because she's, famous as well or whatever, more so for not even her sports play, honestly. Because the Twins have never even been that good in basketball. They're not even that good. Caitlin Clark's great. The Twins at Miami aren't even good players. They're not even that good. So like it's more for other reasons that they're famous, and that's why like because her and Beck, that's why it's blowing up. But like if this was the 70s, again, nobody would care. And today it just gets blown up by social media. I mean, the post that was talking about it, Jackson, had like 10 million impressions. So to me, I would say it's more of a distraction for them too, especially Beck because he's playing right now, in the fact that social media makes it more than it is. So yeah, he definitely needs to not be distracted by the social media because Carson Beck, that's going to hurt his draft stock. That's going to hurt his play because he's been getting criticized this year, even though he has played, well enough overall. He's still getting criticized. But I agree with this comment though. He needs to focus on improving as a player. That's what every player should be doing, and block the noise. Honestly, stay off social media as much as you can if you're a player. You do not want to read what people are saying about you. That's all I can say.
No. Because like there's going to be one day where everybody's all nice about you, writing articles about how perfect you are and how you can do no wrong and how you got like 12 golden eggs in your nest. And then next week, it's going to be all about how god awful you are. And as you pointed out with West Virginia Nation, where one week they were loving Neil Brown, next week they're like, get out of here. And we got the call-in link in the chat. If you want to call in, tell us about your take on what's going on with the Alabama Crimson Tide, you are welcome to do so.
Absolutely. We'll be live for a while longer, taking your calls. But if not, we'll just continue to talk various things around college football. I'm just we're going for West Virginia.
Talk various things around college football, or at least we try to.
There we go.
There we go. It's not trademarked yet, so I can go ahead and use that line.
It's not trademarked yet. It will be trademarked eventually, probably. Oh man.
Oh,
oh man.
Oh man. But yeah.
Breakaway 34 says Jackson Arnold was done dirty. Honestly, I felt like the whole situation was done dirty. With Dylan Gabriel, what he did for Oklahoma, he was really good for them rather. And then Oklahoma was just like, oh well, we want to keep Jackson Arnold because if you start again, he's probably going to transfer. So then Dylan Gabriel leaves. And I saw so many people saying, and this is how insane some people's mindset is. I'm not saying those people are insane, but your mindset is wrong. Okay. factually 110% wrong when these people said that Jackson Arnold was going to be the starting quarterback over Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel got benched. That's why no, he didn't. Dylan Gabriel did not get benched. And if he was going to get benched, then the Oklahoma coach, Brent Venables, is insane as well. He didn't do that, though. They were like, it's a compromise, all right? Like, we want to keep Arnold. Arnold's about to be out the door. We want to keep him. So then it's like, Gabriel, what are we doing here? And it's like, oh, I'll just go to Oregon. Okay, fine. That's how it worked. I already know it's how it worked. I wasn't there, but that's how it worked. And it was pretty wrong. I thought that situation was wrong, and now look at Oklahoma. Look at Oklahoma. Their guy, Jackson Arnold, the golden boy they thought was going to save their team or whatever, didn't work out. And now they're going Hawkins. It just shows you that they have no loyalty. That's the thing. No loyalty.
And this may be a weird comparison, but I'm going to go ahead and compare it to the Colts. When Peyton Manning got hurt 2011, he was trying to get, he was having one bad year. What do? They throw him out like a worn out banana peel for Andrew Luck. And then they don't even treat Andrew Luck very well either. It just kind of feels like that with Oklahoma. It feels so strangely similar.
It's wrong. I mean, like when Alabama,
is Jim Irsay in Norman, Oklahoma? Because that stupid drunk. I mean, he's probably passed out, just making these terrible decisions. Be like, I don't know, just make Jackson Arnold to start that.
I can imagine it. He probably is in Norman, Jackson. You're probably right.
Freaking idiot.
I mean, when you had Alabama go from Hurts, to Tua, like that didn't feel as bad. I still didn't like it, but it didn't feel as bad. Oh, and when Hurts came in for Tua when he got hurt, like that was cool. And then Hurts transferred or whatever, and even Saban basically was like, "I love you, man. All the things you've done for this program is just fantastic, but you need to transfer. You need to do your thing so you can be a pro." And he basically was like, go to Oklahoma, which was a godsend for Hurts because he lit it up with that offense and ended up, going off to the Eagles. But the Oklahoma thing just feels sickening. It's not the same thing. It feels really, really sickening because, like I said, Dylan Gabriel is by far better than Jackson Arnold and Hawkins. Like, it's not even close. Not even close. And even if Jackson Arnold had been good, really good, it still didn't make sense to move on from Gabriel. My thing is with Jackson Arnold is that if there really was that pressure, which is what I believe why that whole scenario happened the way that it did, and Arnold's like, well, I'm going to leave if you don't start me. Why didn't you just stay another year at Oklahoma and learn behind Gabriel again? Because he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. So it's like you needed more tutoring, man. It just doesn't make sense. There's just a lot of bad moves being made, and a lot of it's because of NIL. Literally, I mean, and money here. Like you talk about the Pac-12. That is okay. I'm kind of self-destructing here, I'm going from topic to topic, but I'm just having fun here, man. But the Pac-12 really does irritate me, Jackson. And the fact all the teams are gone. They're gone, right? They went to the Big 12. They went to the ACC. They went to the Big 10 or whatever, right? So the Pac-12's gone, and you've got the
Oregon State, Washington State. We're getting screwed over, but then they're like, oh well, we're gonna take teams from the Mountain West. It's like, well, why didn't you just merge or something?
That's the thing, man. All they had to do was just put Washington State and Oregon State in the Mountain West and call it a day. Because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. There's no difference. But with all those teams going to the Pac-12, it still makes the Pac-12 a weak conference, man. It does not make the Pac-12 look good in any way, shape, or form because the Pac-12 doesn't have USC. They don't have Oregon. They don't have Washington. They don't have all the teams that made the conference what it was. So instead of just doing the easy thing, putting Oregon State, Washington State in the Mountain West, they're having all these other teams move over to the Pac-12. And now the Mountain West is going to have to add teams. It's just stupid. All in the name of this. The greenbacks, man. The money. The moolah. It doesn't make sense to me, though, Jackson. I don't understand. It's because the Pac-12 name is worth more than the Mountain West. That's why they've kept the Big Ten, right? Even though it's got 18 teams. That's how stupid it is, Jackson, in the fact that you have, at one point, the Big Ten had 12 teams and the Big 12 had 10 teams. It's not about the name. It's about how significant. It's about how, significant that brand is and how much it's worth.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
But, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens for the rest of the season and beyond.
Hey, Jacob, if you don't want to hear me talk anymore, call in. I'll listen to you.
Come on in, Jacob, bro.
I'm just talking because I'm filling the air, man. This is a call-in show. We want callers coming into the show, and I'm just having fun talking college football. And SpongeBob is one of my favorite shows, so there you go.
Oh yeah, I mean I still cannot believe it's been 25 years ago since it started. It's like.
Yes, Steve. Absolutely. Bring back the Southwest. Bring back the Big 8. Bring back the Big East. And then you have a college football playoff because you're going to have good teams in every conference. If you move the teams back to where they were, it will never happen, though, because of money. The bill that Jackson showed. It will never happen, but it should.
I'll show it again.
College football will never be the same. I still love it, but it is broken. It is broken.
Make you holler. The dollars make you holler. And we got OG 2020. We got OG 22 giving out a War Eagle right here on Alabama Voice College Football. Tell you right now, you're going to be very happy with the state of the SC channels at the Voice College Football. That I can guarantee. And especially with SEC at the Voice College Football and Alabama Voice College Football. And I'll tell you one thing. I bet you're going to love Kyle Loomis. Like, he is a genius. Like, he is a genius on E2C Network. And, he comes on with Mark Rogers from time to time to discuss the latest updates on the Auburn Tigers. I'm going to tell you right now, he is a go-to. Believe me, he is.
I will say, Jackson, that SpongeBob being 25 years old, I mean, it kind of showcases how fast time flies. And we're not old yet, right? We're not old yet, but Gen Alpha thinks we're old. If you look at those little guys on Twitter, how do they even have an account, right? They're like 10 years old, and they're calling us grandpas and uncles, Jackson. Like, come on, like, we're not old, man. SpongeBob's not old. 25 years, long time, but come on.
True, but look how long Arch has went. Yeah, I mean,
like, Arch waited his turn.
He's gonna be fine.
And he's still waiting his turn, and that's what should happen. I mean,
that's gonna bode well for him.
If you commit to a school, you're behind a guy. Do your time. Do your time. And that's what Oklahoma should have done with Jackson Arnold and Dylan Gabriel. That'd have been a whole lot better of a situation than what ended up transpiring. That's why Oklahoma's in the shape they're in. Texas is in great shape because they got Ewers. And then if something happens to Ewers, you got Arch. And once Ewers is gone, you're still going to have Arch. It's just it works out a whole lot better.
Here we go. And we have another caller. We got Mike G on the line. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
All right. How y'all doing? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear.
We're good.
What's on your mind?
Well, we got some big football games coming up this weekend. Mm-hmm. And there's some games that are very hard to call. All the big games, the game in Austin and the game, the other big game we have, it's in Tennessee. It's them games to me, they're 50-50. They're very, very difficult to call. But I'd like to go on record as saying that I'm an Alabama fan. And after the Vanderbilt loss, I kind of felt that a lot of Bama fans and people in general felt that the world's been falling apart, but where I'm going with this is this. Well, the reason I called it is this: the fellow that was there earlier, the guy that was. This is my first time listening to your show. That's why I really don't know anybody's names. But you're talking about kind of the state of college football and mentioning how players are much more recognized now, and how Carson Beck is like the situation he's in, kind of social media, that how that wasn't the case in 1970. So that kind of led me to call in to talk about the state of college football, and that led me to talk about the Vanderbilt and Alabama loss, and which means where I'm going with this, and with the NIL, which y'all may or may not agree, but with the NIL portal, with the NIL and the transfer portal and the NIL, the divide between Alabama and Vanderbilt is not as great as it was in 1970. Now the sea is not as wide as it was. And you have these transfer quarterbacks like Joe Montana Jr. over there for the day. I forget the guy's name, Davila or something, that was 31, 30 of 35 or something, that beat Alabama. And had they not had that transfer to quarterback, they probably would have been Vanderbilt 1970, game over, second quarter. So absolutely, like you were talking about, college football has changed. It's an entire different landscape. Y'all can tell that I'm an old dude probably. I'm 60 years old. I've been watching Alabama and college football for a long time. Bear Bryant days, you name it. I've seen it from them on every season. But absolutely, we live in 100% different world. One, because of, like you said, money. And two, social media. The littlest thing becomes the biggest thing. That plays out at every level. The littlest, one little thing becomes all of a sudden amplified, like the Alabama loss, and the world's not falling apart. Well, that's why I'm saying, yeah, it's a total different world we're living in. Absolutely, guys.
If I had $100 for every time I heard Nick Saban wouldn't have done this, Nick Saban wouldn't have done that, I would have I'd probably have at least about 1,900 to 5,000 from hearing that a lot over the past few days at that time, because it was like, how similar was, like, let's say, the Ray Perkins era to is there any similarities from Ray Perkins' first year and Kalen DeBoer's first year at Alabama?
Yeah, there was some similarity as coming off a dynasty. That was the similarity right there. And losing Bear Bryant, because keep in mind, Bear Bryant died right after he retired. So it was a little bit of a different ball game. The biggest event in the history of our country, by the way, was Bear Bryant's funeral, as far as the number of people being there. Alabama, every road, every interstate in Alabama was shut down. But anyway, that was the similarity coming off a dynasty. But the biggest difference is nowadays the expectations from week to week. Like I mentioned, you lose a game to Vanderbilt, oh my God, the world is over. The sky is falling apart. Fire the coach already. I don't think a lot of this is coming from within the organization. I think it's coming from without the organization, to be honest with you. But and nationally, people that are kicking Bama while they can, but they haven't fallen far, in my opinion. But from week to week, because keep in mind, guys, I'm going to use Alabama as an example, right? But look at us after the Georgia game. On top of the world. Oh, my God, Bama's back. He's better than Saban. Oh, I heard people say that. Bama's back. They're not good. And now look at us now. Oh, God, look at Kalen DeBoer. Look at the shirt he's wearing. Can you believe his shirt? Look at where we got that social media, dude. One little thing gets amplified for all of a sudden one person like me in the middle of nowhere sitting here for some reason says something, and the next day it gets put on ESPN as a truth. And that plays out in sports and in politics, by the way, but we won't go there. But it's social media is a lot of the problem, and the money. It's money. And that's so, but yeah, and expectations. Just what have you done for me? Like But yeah, but the expectations have always been there for Alabama because we've always been a dynasty. That was a dynasty back in the 20s. We've always been a dynasty. The expectations have always been there. But now, like I mentioned, with social media, somebody like me sitting in a recliner, because I'll be honest with you guys, I troll Ohio State a lot because they deserve it because they're total posers. Ohio State's a total posers. I hate them. And I troll them all the time, right? I troll them all the time. So one day, something I say is going to make it to ESPN and change this world. That's the difference right there. That's the difference. I mean, that's social media and some dude like me and people like y'all with the channel. And I get my information from YouTube, my sports information from YouTube, so that's the difference, guys. But anyway, that's the rant about the state of college football. But I've been watching it for a long time. But we got some big games, man. We got some big games. This game coming up this weekend. I smoked a lot of cigars in my life as a Bama fan. But you got to realize where Tennessee's coming from, guys. Tennessee's a program steeped in football tradition. They're the top 10 college football program. In the past 17, 15 years, Florida beat them 17 times in a row. We beat them 15 times in a row. They were down, dude. Florida, imagine Bama going through that. Imagine us going through that.
Good Lord.
They were down, dude. They were down.
It would be like Bama losing to Vanderbilt and losing to Monroe all in one, where it's like,
if Alabama lost to Tennessee 17 times in a row, I don't even know what I would think.
Right.
We'd be like Linus going through blanket withdrawals. We'd be going nuts.
Right. See, that's where Tennessee was, and that's where they're coming from. That's where they're at now. That's where they just pulled out of that dark age with the Philip Fulmer dark age, what I call it. They just pulled out of it. And but anyway, they have recovered and they're good. They're good. So with that game this weekend, in my opinion, as far as where we're at now, if Bama's we know about them. We know what we got in Alabama. If our defense plays well and plays to their potential, we can win the game. I think we're a better team than Tennessee. Depends on how well our defense plays and depends how well their quarterback plays, guys, because and I know what it takes to beat Alabama. The opposing quarterback has to be Joe Montana for the day, like Vanderbilt's quarterback was. Look at that game. That guy was on fire. That's why they beat us. And if Nico, I can't pronounce his last name very well, so I won't.
Nico Lima Leva.
There you go.
I have such a hard time saying it.
It takes a lot of practice, but I may have gotten his pronunciation wrong, but it's going to take a little while longer. But I mean,
I finally got DJ Uyunglele, but now it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah. I mean, DJ's basically DJ Ukulele is a one-hit wonder anyhow. It's like, oh my God, he's going to be the future of Clemson, but he's not the future of anything. I mean,
Florida's he's a curse on a football program. He's had his chance and he hasn't done it. I mean, as far as Clemson goes, they had two good quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. And ever since them two guys left, Clemson has been in semi-struggle mode. Although they haven't really followed as far as people would like it to think they have. But they still have a chance they're still in the game this year, by the way. And I thought they had a chance to upset Georgia, but they didn't. But Clemson's not out of the ball game, and people totally underestimate Clemson, in my opinion. But we'll see how that goes. I think Miami's over. Don't even get me started on the posers called Ohio State. I hate them. Well, here, let me give you an example, okay? Just real quick why I hate the privileged posers called Ohio State. They lose last weekend, drop one spot. Tennessee wins and drops 3 spots. Ohio State's complete posers. Ohio State's lost 3 of the last 10 games they played. And what, the number 3 in the race? Give me a break on the posers called Ohio State. If you're an Ohio State fan, you suck and I hate you and I hate your team. That's not because I hate them. Think about it, man. What they go to them? Think about it. First of all, they lose every big game they play. Get this, guys. Google it. They're 2-14, 2-12, or something like that. If not 2-14 versus the SEC and bowls, they suck, man. They lost to Missouri last year. They can't beat Michigan. They finally had their chance. I hate them. They're posers, man. They lose to Oregon. Their schedule, they got the weakest schedule. Oh, the new Big Ten members, USC and UCLA. It seems like Ohio State will play them. Nope, no, they don't. LSU plays them new Big Ten members. Ohio State doesn't play them because Ohio State's posers. And Ohio State, they lose their big games, man. They're total privilege. They suck, and I hate them. And one day, somebody's going to figure out that they just suck. They suck. They suck. If they're in the SEC, they'd be Missouri. No, they'd be one notch below Missouri because Missouri beat them last year. So, Ohio State, you suck, and you're posers. That's my opinion. Sorry about that, rant, but they make
you're good. You're good.
I have to ask you, Mike, what are your thoughts on Notre Dame?
I respect Notre Dame, but we know what we got with Notre Dame. They have a ceiling. Notre Dame's I respect the history of Notre Dame. Rudy, they're good, man. They're good. Notre Dame can win a game like the game they won at Texas A&M. They can win the middle big games. They can win them. They can't win the national championship, and they can't win the big game. They don't have the players to do it.
They can't. They have not gotten it done in a big game in the postseason since the 90s. That's bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think there might be some kind of like academic standards. I don't know, guys, but I respect Notre Dame. I'm not a Notre Dame hater. The teams I don't care for but I respect Notre Dame, and they're good. I mean, and honestly, they got potential, I think, to make it to the playoffs. I mean, I think there's still the potential. But the teams I really don't care for, of course, Ohio State, but Miami. I don't care for Miami Hurricanes because I remember the heyday of the Miami Hurricanes in the 90s, and when they were the showboaters, they thought they owned college football, which they did. And as a Bama fan, we put them in their place in 1992, ended that situation. But
George T did the best non-play ever in history of college football.
You got that right, man. I was watching him on the YouTube the other day, thinking about that play and what he did for Alabama football. Thinking, well, that dude right there, he's a Bama great. So yeah, exactly right. One of the greatest plays in Bama history, George Teague in that game, and that kind of like knocked their dynasty back into place. But anyway, so that one reason I don't like Miami, and because Miami, they have a big game, and what they get 10,000 people show up, they get 1/3 of their stadium filled. Give me a break. Now, if I was in Miami, I'd much rather be boating or I know but Miami can't fill up a football stadium for nothing. I mean, so they got 10 fans, and they're all clueless. So and the Florida State, I never had a whole. Well, I guess all the Florida teams really. Let me tell you what, it's a pretty sad day in Florida when UCF is just really one of the best football teams in Florida. I'll be honest with you, but Florida State, the whole team opted out after last year. What little respect I had for them, it completely all went away then. Florida State.
I get you were upset about being left out, but you can't just do that. Oh, well, I'm going to walk off because I'm not getting what I want. I mean, you can't be doing that.
I felt bad for Jordan Travis. I really did. That was just a tough way to end the season because he played so well, and I really liked him. But, yeah, I mean, the way the team didn't play in that Georgia game, it was pathetic. And Miami's big issue is that they moved their stadium to Coral Gables, and it's not on campus anymore. That's a big reason why they can't get any fans. I mean, that was a terrible decision.
Yeah, so that's right. See that that injury of that Florida State quarterback, that was a tragedy for him. But the bowl game, The whole team opted out, man. As compared to the previous year, Bryce Young, the number one pick, and everyone else, the rest of the number one picks, all opted in. So it's like team pride, man. So a little respect I have for Florida State.
I wish the 2023 Florida State team took a page from the 1966 Alabama team, where Alabama got screwed up. They got screwed out of a shot of a national title, a shot of three-peating, but they didn't walk. And I know it was like a different time.
Yeah, it was a different era, but it's still a good point, though.
Yeah, it's like what they do. They smacked Nebraska 34-7.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh my god, like Mike G, remind me to plan like one of those little hangout sessions, and at some point we'll like a lot of us will watch the Alabama Nebraska video from Bama's greatest games. Like that's like because you hear like the Bear Bryant commentary. That was pretty cool. But while we got you here, Mike, what's been, like you've seen a lot of college football throughout your whole lifetime, especially Alabama football.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of the famous rivalry, the third Saturday in October.
Sure have.
What are your top 3 games of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry throughout, like, not just your lifetime, but just the history of the rivalry as a whole?
Well, number one, there's a lot of them, man. Well, number one has got to be the Terrence Cody game when Mount Cody blocked the five. That was a Nick Saban game because I was there in the stadium, and it was that was. I tell you what, that when that stadium went from 0 to it blew up like a cauliflower, and when he blocked that punt. And it was awesome, man. But that was probably number one right there because I was there. We won that game. And we won the Natty Championship that year. That was one of them. And I think back to the Johnny Majors days. When Johnny Majors coached Tennessee, they were good. They had some good players. They were good. And they were a very fast team. I remember they're not very physical. They weren't fast. But there were some good games between Alabama and them during the Johnny Majors days. But keep in mind, kind of like I mentioned, as far as Tennessee, Bama, we whipped them at least 15 times in a row. Florida whooped them more than that. So, I mean, for a while, they weren't even relevant, man. They weren't even hardly relevant. So before that, so that's why I have to just go way back. That's why I got to go way back. But there were some epic games between Alabama and Tennessee, and I can tell you that before their dark ages, there were epic games. We were 50-50 with Tennessee. That's why I mentioned that how they've come back from, because it's how good they were, at one time. But the Phil Fulmer days, the Johnny Majors days, them were the epic days with Tennessee, and even before then, but that goes way back.
Yeah.
But number one, first and foremost, is Mount Cody, man. That's number one, first and foremost, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I was a little kid in that game. That was a classic.
That was a classic. It was. I was there. Like I say that. I mean, Lane Kiffin coached Tennessee for 1 year, and Tennessee. They had the ball about the 35-yard line, and all they had to do was kick a field goal and win the ball game. And Mount Cody and Terrence Cody blocked that kick at the very, very end. I believe it was 0 seconds on the clock. It was game over. That was an epic, epic game. And like I mentioned, the biggest reason why, too, because that's a national championship year. But but I think about, if you mentioned like you was a kid, man, during that time, I think that's what I think about, too, we've had Nick Saban for 15, 17 years now, been a dynasty, won a championship year 2 or 3. And it's been, top of the world from there. I've seen Alabama football seasons where it hasn't been like that, guys. I've seen Alabama football seasons where, believe it or not, we had a losing season. Believe it or not, we went 7-5 and got beat by whatever. I've seen tough days, and I don't think them days are around the corner. I think the dynasty continues. I think we have the right coach in Kalen DeBoer. I know we do. We just got to give them a chance. That's why I think first and foremost, I kind of got to just let you know that, like, we got to give this coach a chance. We got to remember that Nick Saban, we lost to Louisiana to Monroe our first year with Nick Saban. And Vanderbilt's not a bad team, guys. I mean, I think they're 4-2 and still in this competition to win the SEC as we speak right now. And last I checked, they got reincarnated Joe Montana over there last I saw. So it's like,
and the magic that Diego Pavia has been creating at Vanderbilt. And guess who's on that Vanderbilt coaching staff? Jerry Kill. Guess where Jerry Kill, Diego Pavia were last year? At New Mexico State. What did New Mexico State do? They had a historic season, which included a dominating victory against the Auburn Tigers.
Dominating victory. Yeah, that was not by accident. That was not. There you go. Right there you go. See things. See, that's where I go back to. That's actually what made me call in the state of college football. The divide between Vanderbilt and Alabama today is not like it was in 1970. When that young man said 1970, I grabbed my phone because you're exactly right. You're exactly right. With all these teams doing these upsets of them, these are all transfer quarterbacks. I mean, Jalen Daniels was a transfer quarterback for LSU. Joe Burrow's a transfer quarterback. You name it, man. Jalen Hurts. You name it. I mean, that's the state of college football. That's why the divide is no longer like it was. It's no longer 3 yards of cloud of dust.
True.
And then it's these hot. I don't want to call them hot shot quarterbacks, because let's call them like just game winning quarterbacks, good quarterback, good college quarterbacks. And I'll use that because of Johnny Football. Forgot the Texas A&M guy, Johnny Manziel. There you go. A college quarterback. A.J. McCarron, a excellent college quarterback. The list goes on. That's college.
He was really good in college.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the list goes on. You're exactly right. That's why. I mean, that's. I kind of forgot what was going over there, guys. But yeah, you're exactly right. But the big games come, guys. The divide. That's where I was going with that divide. It's no longer there. That's why we can't freak out when Bama loses a game. You can't freak out. The national championship winner is going to have a possibly 3-loss team. Believe it or not, the national championship winner can be a 3-loss team. So don't freak out when Bama loses, please. It's not like that was in 1970. It's not like it was.
Great.
That's all I can say. It's all I can say. We got to believe in our coach, because I believe in our coach. I believe in our team.
Yeah, because if we were like 11th in the nation or 10th in the nation, there'd probably be some way where we could get lucky. Like maybe not this year, but like in a future year. Because when you're a national champion, you need a lot of luck. 1965, 2011, 2017. We did very well. Like 1965, that was a pretty weird year right there. We started out the season in an upset loss to Vince Dooley in his second year at Georgia with, oh my God, like that hook and ladder by Georgia. The knee was down. It was down, but they got lucky. But then we tied Tennessee later in the season because King Stabler didn't have a watch. Apparently, he didn't look at the clock. He thought it was third down instead of fourth down. Bear Bryant was so mad they kicked that locker room door off its hinges. Sheriff's like, "Who kicked the door down?" Bear Bryant goes, "It was me." Sheriff upped his tail and ran. But then we won out. We had a little bit of luck again, like Michigan State. They lost in the Rose Bowl in a rematch against UCLA. Number 2, Arkansas Razorbacks lost in the Cotton Bowl against the LSU Tigers. And, of course, we beat the number 3 Nebraska Cornhuskers with Bob Devaney. And, Matt, we smacked them 39-28, basically.
Right.
But
See, there's so many good stories about Bama football, man. We can do a whole episode on this, guys. When you go back to the 1920s, the early Rose Bowl days, when Bama just had to get out to California, however they could get out there, and they go out there, we beat them, guys. I mean, it's like we beat them. That was California and Washington and USC and UCLA. There have been eras of dynasties throughout, but what you're talking about there with Vince Dooley and Bear Bryant, now that's old school as well, and that's a little bit before my time. I'm not that old now. That's a little bit.
that's
I just don't have my teeth in. All right, I ain't that old, but but that's old school. But the dynasty's been going on a long time, man. And that's why I believe, like, we can't take Denny's name off the stadium. He brought football to the South. He brought football to Alabama. He made Southern football what it is. So we can't take his name off the stadium. And so I think he did what's right. But yeah, but there's many. But where do we? And but like I say, just where we're at now, we just gotta. There's been many dynasties, man. Many dynasties, 20s, 40s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000s for sure. I mean, but they're going to continue. But just like I say, just we got to have faith in their quarterback. I got faith in their coach, which I do, and long as he's, which I do, faith in their quarterback, which I do. I've always had faith in their quarterback. Now, I could probably have an episode on Jalen Milroe, which I'll go ahead and say that after the Texas game last year, I was all for benching Jalen Milroe and seeing what we got, but not Tyler Buchner. What the heck is up with Tyler Buchner? If you're going to bench Jalen Milroe and see what we got, bring in our other guy. Bring in Ty. He's been on the bench so long.
Todd Simpson.
Yes, it frustrates me so bad. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. If we're going to pitch Milroe, bring in Simpson, not a second string lacrosse player. That's why I hated about Tommy Reese. He destroyed Milroe. Milroe was our best option. He should have went with the word go and not benched him for Buchner. I understand mention Milroe, but they should have tried to bench him for our real second string guy, Simpson. But Milroe's the man. I'm all for Milroe from this point. Thank God we got him from this point because he's helping us win some of these games if you look at it. And, he's really a running back and a quarterback. That's why running backs has been talking about a running back's not getting very many carries. One reason why is because Milroe's getting most of their carries, and which he should be. He's a good running back. I mean, if you got a good running back, run him. It's working. And so I'm all for where I'm at with Jalen Milroe right now. I'm all for him. I'm glad we got him. He's a good running back, he's a quarterback, and the dude's got a good arm, man. People talk about his mid-level passing. I don't know, but I can look at his overall stats and tell you they're okay. I can watch the football game and tell you the dude's got an arm, and some of these passes are spot on by the inch. If you look at that pass he threw in that Vanderbilt game, I think it was the South Carolina, maybe the Vanderbilt game, to the running back, Jan Miller in the end zone. I think it was Jan Miller, maybe in the end zone, the one that he delivered it right to the gut in the end zone. That was spot on by the inch. Beautiful, dude. So Milroe can throw, man, and he can run. So from this point, thank God we got him. Tommy Reese set him back 6 weeks, man. Tommy Reese set him back 6 weeks. I mean, that happened. But after the Texas game, yeah, we was all PO'd. I said I was mad at Milroe, bench him, but bench him for Simpson. If Simpson don't work out, take Simpson out, put Milroe back in. That's where they went wrong right there. But
well, and from what you've seen so far, Mike, what would you say is your score prediction for Alabama, Tennessee?
Oh man, that's a tough one, dude. That is so tough. I mean, it's just I'm going to go with Bama because I'm a Bama fan. So I'm going to go with our team. So I'm going to let you know that. But it's going to be so tough, man. And really, I got to go with Bama. Tennessee's got a good defense, dude. They got the number 2 defense in the country. I mean, that's why it's hard to pick. It's so hard to pick. It depends on our defensive secondary and Nico. That's what it depends on right there. That's why it's hard. So I say our defensive secondary hears the noise, and they play good, and we hold Tennessee to about 25 points, and we score about 27 or 28 points. So I say about 28 to 25, somewhere in there. But like I say, I think it'll be a close game. It's 50-50. P.S. Why are we favored every game we play? If we play the New York Giants tomorrow, we're going to be favored by 10 points. Give me a break on that. I think we're favored in this game as well. I quit.
2.5.
There you go, man. Why we favored every game in the world? We're favored. I don't see why that's the. I'm glad they. Why we favored every game and they hate on us every Sunday morning and tell us how horrible we are. That we're favored every game. It makes no sense to me. But
I would have thought it would have been a pick. I would have thought it had been dead even because, I mean, this is a 50-50 game. Absolutely.
It's right. It should be a 50. Tennessee should be favored by 1 point. You're right. It should be a pick. Right. Because it is a pick. It is a pick. You're right. But being a Tennessee a home game, Bama's defensive secondary is the question mark. They got the hot shot quarterback, which he is. He's trying to find his way. They should be favored by 1 point. But it is a pick'em game. It really is a pick'em game. Yes, it is a pick'em game. But I wish Bama could be favored every game in the world. Being favored 14 against whoever last people we played against South Carolina is ridiculous. So we shouldn't have been 14 against whoever. But there's some big games, though. I mean, like another real quick. I'll let y'all go pretty quick. I'm going to talk about one thing. Georgia talks about they won't be a dynasty, right? Georgia thinks they're a dynasty, right? And the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. And the reason why is this, because they can't beat Alabama. They can't beat Alabama. They got lucky beat Alabama one time because we were injured in that game, and we were. They got lucky beat Alabama one time. They can't beat Alabama. So until they can beat the dynasty, they're not a dynasty. They have had tremendous success. I will give them that. But they haven't quite taken the ball away from the real dynasty. So they can until they can take the ball away from us. They ain't the dynasty, man. We still are. And last I knew, we beat them. So, again, that's kind of where we stand with Georgia being a dynasty. But hey, and before I let you, I got to go. Before I let you, I'm going to take more thing though. Ohio State, they are posers. I really want y'all to think about it, right?
I'll tell you what, we both know an Ohio State guy that's really out of reality. Like, it's we had quite an experience. Let's put it that way. But I can tell you right now, Mike, you're always welcome to come on in here. Don't be a stranger. You're always welcome to call in on the Alabama Call-In Show every Thursday night. I'll tell you one thing. Thank you for calling in. We appreciate you calling in.
It's been a blast. I mean, you made a lot of fantastic points about the state of college football because I absolutely agree. I mean, Indiana's 6-0 for the first time since 1967. I mean, Indiana football is 6-0
that year,
and they're 16th in the country. It's all because of the portal and NIL, and it's a different ball game. Like you said, the gap is a lot narrower for sure.
That's Exhibit A. All right, guys, y'all take care.
You too, Mike G. Man, that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun talking with Mike G.
I mean, I'm pumped up for the Tennessee game. I already was, but Mike definitely pumping us up for that. I mean, like I said, he made a lot of fantastic points because, I mean, college football is just so different now. It is just so different. I mean, Indiana being 6-0, Army and Navy are playing great. They're undefeated. I know that it might not last forever. Like, these teams are eventually going to lose, and I hope not. Especially Indiana, I hope not. But, I mean, it just does seem like the gap is a little bit narrower. We'll see as time goes on if that changes, where maybe these top teams do reestablish themselves. But it just feels like with an open portal, though, and these guys can just always transfer to these lower teams, it gives these teams a chance. Because, I mean, like he said, we've all said as well, Pavia, getting him for Vanderbilt. Like, Vanderbilt would not have been able to beat Alabama or beat Kentucky or, beat Virginia Tech if they didn't have him. Because Clark Lee, he was getting, flack. Like, he was like, oh, is he going to get fired like all the other Vanderbilt coaches? after last year because they were pretty decent the year before that for Vanderbilt standards, but now they're better again. So, I mean, just you needed a quarterback. And I think they got a wide receiver from New Mexico State as well. So, I mean, it's made a massive difference for them. And, I mean, Indiana got a lot of portal guys. It's just a completely different ball game. It's very entertaining, but it does stink for teams like Alabama, you know, when you want them to win, when you're a fan of the team, that they might not be able to be as dominant as they once were. Obviously, we have Steven Cherry still in the chat. We appreciate you, Steven, for tuning in still. Definitely, I mean, we know that some of the big fan bases and the big teams, you know, like Michigan, Ohio State, there's no love lost between those two fan bases. There is no love lost. Alabama and Auburn, there's no love lost. So definitely appreciate it, Steven, for sure. Oh, we got another caller coming on.
Saban Lover, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, doing all right. How are you boys doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. Thanks for calling in. It's on your mind.
Happy to be here. Let me tell you, I just finished up my cornhole league that I do every Thursday night. The top 3 get paid out. I was in my final game, tied for 3rd, and lost after a 4-bagger too. It's real tough.
That's tough.
Yeah. So what do you guys, I want to hear your thoughts, and I haven't been listening. I have to apologize. I'm sorry. I'm normally a big time listener. So I just want to hear your thoughts, your predictions on the game before I give mine.
You want to go first, Jackson? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first because I'll be honest, you know, because like you, Jeffrey, I flip-flopped on the prediction on what the score should look like for Alabama and Tennessee. But I honestly feel like we're going to see another heroic moment for the Heisman from Ryan Williams. I feel like he's going to catch a game-winning touchdown somehow in the final seconds as Alabama wins 28-24. There's going to be some kind of luck, some way, somehow.
For me,
both teams have just been limping.
When I look at this game, I mean, it's the opposites, and I've said this of several times. Like you said, you haven't watched it earlier, but we also did a show on Monday as well talking about the game and just when I look at Alabama and the fact that their defense has not been playing is good, 40 points to Vanderbilt, and then you talk about the fact that Tennessee's offense, ever since the first half against Oklahoma, it has been iffy. It's been very spotty. They were really struggling on offense. I mean, if they could just scored against Arkansas, they could have won that game. They could not score at all toward the end of that game. And against Florida, they weren't that good either. So I'm just looking at it that whoever's weakness, which one is more like apparent, which one it struggles more in this game. And I feel like for whatever reason, I just feel like I maybe trust Tennessee's offense a little bit more against Alabama's defense on their own field versus Alabama's defense just not playing as well overall. And I just their offense, I mean, Alabama can score. That they're a good offensive team, but they're not a great offensive team. I don't know. They lost the last time they went to Neyland. So I did pick Alabama to lose this game to Tennessee 28-24. That was tough. I didn't want to do it, but I did go. Oh, that was my prediction, 24-21. I couldn't remember what I said. 24-21 is what I said on Monday. So, yeah, I'm going with Tennessee. I want Bama to win, obviously, but I'm going Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, that's fair, too, because my issue is it's almost seemed like we've only played one good quarter this entire year, and we've talked about it ad nausea at this point. Of course, we played that first great quarter against Georgia there, but, if that didn't happen, you look at that game and you think it's a disaster, right? Mm-hmm. And that would be my question for you guys, for Coach DeBoer, like, do you think that we give him a little bit of leeway here, or should we be super upset? I mean, we all know what happened with Saban. God bless his soul. We all know what happened his first year, and look at that. It turned out pretty well. Do you think if DeBoer loses to Vanderbilt, which is, I don't know if it's ever happened in our history.
It hasn't happened. Prior to
since 1984. 1984 or something like that.
1984 and
Okay.
1984. But the last time it happened in Nashville was in 1969.
So
Oh,
it
God.
doesn't happen very
that
often.
was a good year, though. I mean, I enjoyed that year pretty good.
Especially to go to the movies for sure.
Yeah, the summer was fantastic. Anywho, I mean, what do you think the fan base does though if they lose to Vanderbilt, if they then go to Neyland, they go 0-2 in Tennessee? I mean, what do you think the team does?
I think the fan base, it's like Jeffrey said. 1 week, he cited the West Virginia fan base where 1 week they were praising Neil Brown. Next week they were saying that he's the worst coach ever.
Yeah, right.
We talked a little bit about it a little while ago about Kalen DeBoer, where some Bama fans were like, "Oh, he's better than Saban." But then
He's certainly not better than Saban.
There were people that said that after the Georgia game, or at least the first half. Oh, he's going to be better than Saban. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
right? It was like and then some of those same people that said that, they were yelling about how Saban wouldn't have done that. Put me in on that coaching staff. Okay, go on that coaching staff then.
Yeah, that's insane. It truly is insane. To tell you the truth, I've been to Neyland Stadium a few times, and I think it's worth what, 5 points, 6 points, probably, And I think the concern is now, and obviously this year for them, I mean, it's just like anyone. It's a newer year for Tennessee, and I don't want to sit here and go, well, I've seen Nico throw a few bad passes, because he still was, the number one recruit, number one quarterback, whatever. And I'm just afraid to put it all away and be like, he's not that good, because the moment we say that, it's going to click for him and we're going to get our asses handed to us. So that's my concern. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I feel like Nico, the issue for him is that he doesn't have the weapons that Hendon Hooker had. I mean, Jalen Hyatt was unbelievable, and they don't have that type of player. And they have some injuries in their wide receiver room, and their O-line is a problem. And it was a problem even with Hendon Hooker, because that's why they couldn't beat Georgia. They didn't have a shot that year with Hendon Hooker, because their offensive line couldn't even protect him. I don't think Nico, as a young guy, whereas Hooker was a veteran coming over from Virginia Tech, and he did not have much talent around him.
He didn't do much at Virginia Tech, let's be honest about
because
that.
he just didn't have any good players around him.
Yeah,
they were terrible.
That's true.
So he goes to Tennessee, has tons of talent around him, showcases what he can do. But at Nico, he just doesn't have as much talent around him as Hendon Hooker had. And the O-line that they got is not great. I mean, and for a young quarterback in the SEC, having to process things, I mean, especially when you have so much hype, sometimes that can get to you. I mean, Cade Klubnik had a lot of hype for Clemson, and he looked horrible at times last year. This year, it seems like he's starting to figure it out. Sometimes it takes time. I think for some people,
he just plays in the ACC. Come on.
I agree. I get that. But he is doing better, though. He's doing a lot better.
He is.
But I do agree with you on that. The ACC is way weaker. I mean, if Florida was in the ACC, they'd probably go 8-4 this year. Or
yeah, that's true.
Probably.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But yeah, I just feel like Nico being a young guy with tons of hype. I mean, people are expecting so much from him, and he's not really getting protected well enough. It's just causing him to look pretty poor, because he had such high expectations. Because when you're the number one quarterback in a class, you're just going to get, so much flack. I mean, Drew Allar's another highly rated guy that people talk, poorly about at Penn State, because he hasn't really, developed to the point where people are expecting him to be yet. Still, so it's I don't know. I do think the switch will flip for Nico.
And the teams haven't won the big games so far under Drew Allar. That's been a knock on him, and it's going to continue to be a knock on him until they beat Ohio State.
Honestly, for Penn State, it's been a problem since the last time they have beaten Ohio State. I mean, beating Utah in the Rose Bowl, no one cared. It's like, okay, well, Cam Rising got hurt. It's into the bowl game. But, people want to see Penn State beat Ohio State. That's what people want to see. Until that happens, nobody's gonna care.
Oh,
they're just the second or third best team in the Big Ten every
For
year. They
sure.
were like the second for a while until Michigan surpassed.
Yeah, and it's probably everyone other than Ohio State fans that want to see that happen. I mean,
Oh yeah,
SEC
like
fans,
the Rutgers
SEC
of the Big Ten,
fans,
the Purdue,
yeah,
they
wherever
want to
it
see Penn
is,
State beat
yeah.
them.
Well, and something we like to ask each of our callers
Sure.
is something about the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry. Now, you've seen the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry throughout your lifetime, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you've seen plenty of games
Sure.
that weren't in your lifetime.
Sure.
Which are your top 3 favorite ones of all for the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry?
Oh God, that's tough.
Mhm.
I vividly remember Amari Cooper, I think 2 years in a row on the first play of the game, against Tennessee, scoring an 80-yard touchdown. So can I put those two, in my top
It's
3?
your list.
Can I combine them?
You can do what you want with them. It's your list.
Yeah. So I'm going to combine those two. Those are going to be my number 3. Number 2 is probably going to be 2006 when Alabama fumbled the ball in Neyland Stadium on the first play and we ran it back for a touchdown. And number 1's 2022, baby. Go Vols! Woo!
I didn't know it was Volta. That was quite a genjutsu right there.
What? Wait a minute. I'm confused. His title was Saving Lover.
Yeah.
He was a volunteer fan? What?
Yeah.
Awesome call. That's funny.
I mean, we welcome everybody calling. That was pretty fun.
That was it was like a twist villain in a movie. Like it was just a twist. I was like, what?
He threw
Not
out the
expecting that.
He threw out the genjutsu on us.
Oh man, definitely appreciate the call, Saving Lover, and call back anytime.
Oh
Definitely
yeah, you're welcome. Call in, more the merrier. Like we're happy to have you calling in. Rough Robert Return says he is baffled.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. I'm still confused. Like it took me like 5 seconds to process. I'm in shock. I mean, I wonder if Saving Lover is actually like his normal title then. Is that like his normal title or did he change it? I don't know. Like that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm not gonna forget that for a while. I'm not gonna forget that.
It's like we might as well use that for a short. Like put that out everywhere.
He said 2022. I was like, wait a minute. 2022. I thought he was going to go 2005.
Like he was talking about 2006. I was like, oh, well, I should know something right then and
yeah,
there.
well, 2006, I had to think because I remember the 2006 game now in my, not like when I was only 2 years old with that game, but I mean, now I know what happened in it, but it didn't register with me at first when he said 2006. But then I was like, 2022, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, man. So, I mean, definitely, it's been a lot of great games in the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry, whether you are a Tennessee or an Alabama fan. You could go both ways with it. So many great games. But, I mean, it's gonna be a big game for both teams because the loser, especially if you're Tennessee, your playoff chances are very slim. I mean, the only reason I say especially for Tennessee is because of the fact that Alabama obviously has the Georgia win. Tennessee, I mean, if they beat Alabama, that would be a great win, but I still think maybe the Georgia win, especially depending on what Georgia does, would still be a better win. True. And the fact that Alabama is ranked higher than Tennessee right now in the AP, but obviously we'll have to see what the CFP rankings do. But I do think that for either team, though, a loss puts your playoff chances in severe jeopardy. Because, I mean, Alabama still has to go to LSU. Alabama still has to go to Oklahoma. Not that, again, coming into the season, we're like, well, it's Oklahoma, but Alabama did lose to Vanderbilt. So,
and even though our home game against Auburn looked easy, Then
You
again,
never know.
Vanderbilt looked easy, right? Because it's Vanderbilt. Well, guess what? They're not so easy. And especially with the way Auburn's season is going and it's just derailing for them, they'd love nothing more than to end their crappy season than to spoil Alabama's season.
Mm.
So
See,
it's
in
like-
Tennessee, you look at the Volunteers, right? Like if they lose, they still have Georgia.
Mhm.
So you lose to Georgia, and Tennessee has 3 losses. Lose to Bama, lose to Georgia, they're out. They're done.
Mhm.
Whereas with Bama, again, if they lose, they still have LSU and Oklahoma and Auburn. And Tennessee even finishes the season with Vanderbilt.
Well,
You know,
and
on the road.
let's
And
not
you would
forget
say,
Missouri.
coming into the season, you wouldn't even think that'd be close, but you never know since Vandy's playing better.
And let's not forget Missouri being on our schedule because it's like, I mean, I know Missouri's not going to be a team that's really beating anybody like Georgia or a Texas or a LSU even. Still, though, we don't really like to discount any opponent. I mean, if we haven't learned from that Vanderbilt game, then we got like we got to do what we've done in past years. Just look at every opponent like it's our number one game. We do that, we're good to go.
So, in your opinion, Jackson, the loser of this game, do you think they're going to miss the playoff?
No, they're still alive. Like all
yeah,
they
I
really
agree.
have to do is-
I agree that they're still alive because I mean I want to say that the loser's done, but they're not. Realistically, they're not. But looking at both these teams, whoever loses is probably going to lose again. And if they do lose again, they're done. Coming into the season, we kind of both said that Alabama at 9-3, maybe. I don't see Alabama 9-3 making the playoffs.
I was looking at like 10-2 for Alabama.
I don't see it. Well, it depends what everyone else does, but I mean, Alabama being 9-3 with the loss to Vandy is just they're not going to get in. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, you're not done. I mean, like Steven said, losers done. Again, I agree that technically, yeah, they're done, but that's assuming they lose again. If Tennessee loses to Bama, then loses to just Georgia, they're done. But if Tennessee loses to Bama, but then wins out, they get in. If Alabama loses to Tennessee and then loses another game to LSU, they're done. But if Alabama loses to Tennessee, but then wins out, they're going to get in. So the loser's not done. It's just if they lose this game, it probably means they're going to lose again. So therefore, they would be done. But no, they're not done by default losing this game. It's just you can't lose again. So that's kind of where both teams are at. And this is the comment you were pulling up.
Yeah, I mean, Rough Rider makes a good point about Missouri because, like, they almost lost to Vandy. They almost lost to Boston College. They got smacked by Texas A&M.
Arguably, that Boston College game is making them look worse than the Vandy game. Since Vandy's doing better, you know, and everything, it kind of makes Missouri look less bad. Now, Boston College is kind of slipping. Because, I mean, obviously, like, BC started out well, but now they're not playing very good.
I'm glad you're talking about Boston College because Virginia Tech has smacked Boston College 42-21. Which, I mean, the lesson is.
Oh wait, that game was tonight. I didn't even see 1 second of that game. So what was the score again?
42-21 Virginia Tech. I was watching a little bit. I was watching a little bit of the game, and I was watching a little bit of the Michigan Call-In Show. Which, by the way, tune in to the Michigan Call-In Show.
So Boston College is free falling like Tom Petty right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so they're 4-3.
Yep.
What's their record?
4-3.
And Virginia Tech is 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Virginia Tech's probably a better team. I mean, I was buying Boston College for a minute there, but I mean, dude, they beat Florida State. Florida State sucks, so it's like okay.
Now that's a win that looks worse each week.
Oh yeah, I mean that is why I'm telling you, Jax, that is the only reason I did not pick Cal to beat Miami. Was because Cal lost to Florida State. How did Cal lose to Florida State when every other team can beat Florida State, but Cal can't? Come on, Cal. No. And then they almost beat Miami. That's why Miami's not
Florida
a top 10
State,
team.
like like what was so irritating about Florida State Cal was Florida State was celebrating like they won a natty. They acted like they beat Aaron Rodgers or something. It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
no, you
Well,
beat
didn't
a
Cal miss
pitiful.
some field goals?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Cal should have won. Cal is irritating team, man, because they lost to Auburn last year because of field goals. They lose to Florida State this year because of field goals. Get a kicker. Come on. Yeah, it's frustrating, man.
Oh man.
I mean,
But
the thing is, Jackson, Miami is not a top 10 team.
No.
There is no way Miami, I know they're ranked in the top 10, but I'm just saying they're not a top 10 team. You cannot beat Cal, barely, when Cal loses to Florida State. I don't care. Like, I know they're winning. Oh, my gosh. Miami's not a top 10 team. Miami could go undefeated, and they're not a top 10 team. I don't care. I just do not care. Miami's not a top 10 team. They're not.
I cannot wait to see the next several games for Miami.
Oh, it's gonna be a train wreck. Something's gonna go down. Something's gonna go down. I mean, I thought it was Virginia Tech. I thought it was Cal. Somebody's gonna get them. I don't know when it's
maybe
gonna be.
Louisville gets them.
Maybe Louisville will, and I picked Miami too. That's why I'm mad. I picked Miami. I wanted to go with Louisville, but man, Louisville's been underwhelming this year. So I went with Miami, but
there's always that one game that Mario Cristobal teams tend to lose.
Yeah, but they always lose to someone really bad. Like Cal. It would have made sense for Cal, but then Cal blew it. So I mean, I don't know. Look at Miami's schedule. I gotta look at Miami's schedule since we're talking about them.
Well, they got Duke on the week. I believe it's after Florida State.
This schedule is trash. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. You've got Florida State, Wake, Duke. Man. This is
Syracuse on rivalry week.
This is abysmal, dude. This schedule is bad.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, they could go undefeated, and I still wouldn't think they're really that good. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated. I'd be surprised. They're going to triple.
Their toughest game left so far is at Georgia Tech.
It's either at Louisville or at Georgia Tech. I honestly don't know which one's tougher, to be honest. I don't.
I feel like maybe Louisville, because I mean Jeff Brom tends to get his teams ready for that top 10 opponent. We saw it at Purdue. We saw it last year against Notre Dame. Maybe we could see it against
Miami.
Hope
Louisville wins that game, not just, because of our buddy Austin, but I honestly hope Louisville kind of wins, man. Because, I mean, the longer Miami goes where they're undefeated, it is just going to become a cringe fest. I don't hate Miami. It's just, and I know some Miami fans that are really cool. Like, I don't have a beef with Miami, but it's just the media, man. It's like, oh, well, it's Miami and Clemson. It's a crash course in the ACC. It's like, Miami's not good. Like, have you watched this team?
Put them against
Cam
Pittsburgh.
Ward is good, but the rest of their team is not that good.
Put them against Pittsburgh. Their dreams will die once they go against Pittsburgh.
Oh, I'll say with Pittsburgh's not that good. Pittsburgh's not that good either, I don't think. I mean, Pittsburgh barely beat North Carolina. North Carolina is horrible, and that's coming from a North Carolina fan. They're horrible, Jackson. They're bad. And Pitt barely beat them. True. So, I mean, I'm happy for Pitt. I'm happy for Pat Narduzzi, but they're not all that good. Oh, yeah, I hope Louisville wins just for Austin. But I'm just saying as well, like, I hope Louisville wins because if Miami keeps winning, I mean, oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Oh, man. It's like 2 weeks from now, we could be seeing an unbeaten Pitt and a one-loss SMU go against one another, but we won't be thinking about that right now. But before we eventually head off to bed, which I don't even think I know what time it is. It's like
that's after midnight. Not for you, but us over on the East Coast. Yeah.
It's like, oh man, it's like see, you get us together, it's like it's always a wild ride with us. But of course, you can always tune in and become a YouTube member at Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And I can tell you right now, you will get so many more fun moments such as this, especially when you become a Crimson Faithful member for $2.99 a month, where you can have a loyalty badge next to your name, member shout out, and a custom emoji to use in the comments. And you can become a Saban disciple for $4.99, where you get priority replies, the comments, and access to a monthly hangout with all of us at Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And you can connect with us on social media and give out content requests if you become a Bear Bryant legend for $9.99 a month. And I'm going to tell you, it's awesome. That I can personally guarantee. And you can put out any content request that you want. I repeat, any content request that you want for $9.99 a month.
Absolutely. And I mean, definitely, again, me, Jackson, and Johnny Burks will be delivering on that front. Absolutely. A lot of content coming down the pike for sure. And you definitely want to check out Indiana at the Voice of College Football as well. Trying to grow all of the channels in the Voice of College Football community. The Indiana channel is at 50 subscribers. They're having a great season. There's a lot to talk about with Indiana football. So definitely appreciate if you guys go sub over to the Indiana channel. But definitely sub to the Alabama channel, and really appreciate if you join. Like Jackson said, any of the tiers, but you definitely you want that top tier, absolutely, for sure. There's a lot of great perks with that. And like Jackson said, content requests, any type of video that you want to make, I'm sure Jackson.
You can even request interviews on that. Like anybody you want. Like we don't know if we can get them, but we will do our darndest for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do everything you can to get it, and try to make it feasible.
Sleet, snow, power, no power. That's not going to stop us. We're going to make sure we can get it for you.
For sure, absolutely. And like I said, Jackson or me or someone else will definitely make that content for you for sure. So it's well worth it.
Oh yeah, and of course, agreed. That's most definitely a joke. Yeah. But you can check out our buddy Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports, where he talks sports every day, or at least he tries to, on Only Talk Sports, and we got to get him to 3,000 subs.
If you are an NFL fan, it's not just college football. This is a college football show at the Voice of College Football on all the team channels. But if you like the NFL, you like college basketball and the NBA, I talk on my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, every single day, or at least I try to. Absolutely. It's not trademarked yet, but it will be trademarked 110% eventually. So appreciate if you guys sub over there. I know a lot of you guys have, but I'm sure a few of you haven't. I would really appreciate it a lot, because definitely a lot of content's coming down the way. You don't want to miss it.
Oh, yeah. And you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube, where I'm 122 subs away from that magic number 500. And I'm also wanting to get to 1,000. I'm hoping to get there before the end of the year, where you can not only check out the Final Whistle with Austin at Sports Talk with Austin, you can also check out the Pitts Analysis Show, but you can also, of course, check out the Jacksonian, where I bring out some of the best guests in the world on that show. You can not only check it out on Jackson Johnson 979, but you can also check it out on Jackson VO CFB on X, where I will be having some of these episodes as well. I tend to have the episodes on Jackson VO CFB on X, and I also have them out on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube. And of course, I'll be putting out updates on what's going on with Crimson Tide Live and the Crimson Tide call-in show, and what's going on the Jackson on Instagram as well, Jackson Johnson 543908. I can tell you right now, it's a wild. And of course, Jeffrey, you can check out his updates
on X as well.
There you go. So what you want to do is tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely,
Alabama
because
with the boys
good
college
and well
football.
that there are a lot of college football fans that or NFL, all that kind of stuff. And if they love college football in the NFL, all of these places are fantastic places to check out. Jackson does a fantastic job, and appreciate it if you check me out as well, for sure.
I appreciate it, man. And Jeffrey does awesome as well on Only Talk Sports and on Indiana at the Voice of College Football, and contributing here on Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And I can tell you right now, you're gonna want you may want to tell those cashiers at Publix, Walmart, Whole Foods, whichever store you go to, tell them about it, because they may not like college football. They may not
throw it out west as well. Safeway, throw out Safeway and Albertsons, and
tell the ranch owners
all that stuff.
Tell the ranch owners about what we're up to. Tell everyone, literally everybody. Tell the garbage man collecting garbage. Tell the mailman. Tell the mail lady. Tell everyone. Spread the word to everyone that you know. Like we're making sure we're delivering, because remember, you're our boss. Like you're our boss, and I can tell you right now, we appreciate Mark Rogers and we appreciate TJ Rowan for giving us this opportunity. We appreciate it very much. We
absolutely
we thank all of you, and we thank everyone watching. So with that being said,
appreciate all of our callers tonight. It was a fantastic show, and can't wait for the game. And appreciate the super chat by JT Thompson as well. Helps out the channel. You guys definitely were awesome tonight, and we'll be back next Thursday. Another call-in show,
sure.
Hopefully with great news. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Alabama gets the dub, but definitely it's going to be, as Jackson would say, a wild ride. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens for sure.
Like, comment, subscribe, click on that notification bell so you never miss another video. Okay, that headset's not trademarked yet, but it's getting there.
It's going to be trademarked, Jackson. You're giving me ideas. It's going to be trademarked.
Oh, man. And that's we're going to have a wild weekend ahead of us. And, of course, you can tune in on this show on your local podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Audible, wherever you can find podcasts. So stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. And we wish you all a good night and sleep well, and to stay safe, stay warm. It is cold out. And remember, roll Tide.